X-Files that I've learned is like keep track of everything that you do, keep track of every conversation, right? And so where he had to change it, right? He had to backtrack. I said, okay, I'm gonna give you this because of yeah, absolutely. This is my performance, but at the same time, he viewed me as a black person.
Welcome. The Shoes Off Talk. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. How's everyone doing? Tim, what's going on over there?
Man, I'm in here. I'm excited to be here. Another amazing show about to happen.
Yeah,
I'm
man.
excited. I'm
Yes, sir.
excited.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, we got a good show today. We'll be talking about what is that? Engineering leadership in Black America. And man, I'm just waiting for this. I'm ready to hear some good word on this one. Because this is the time that us as Black people should know how to engineer leadership. How we should go about doing that. Um, Today's guest that we have is Leo Anderson. And now I met Leo, over 3 or 4 years ago, something right there, 5 years ago.
22,
Yeah,
2020, yeah.
yeah. And yeah, we had talked to him before, and man, yeah, that was a good session, really good session. So I was like,
What was
yeah,
the conversation about?
what did we talk about? We
We
talked,
talked about everything.
yeah,
We talked about work, similar to what we're going to talk about today, but it
Mhm.
was everything. But it was organic.
yeah,
We
yeah.
talked about a little
Those,
bit of everything.
those are some of the best
Yeah,
conversations,
yeah.
the ones that aren't scripted.
Okay, so Leo,
Yes, sir. Happy Tuesday.
thank you for being here, sir.
Let's have fun today.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Let's have
sir.
fun today.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, Leo.
Leo Anderson. I'm originally from Kansas City, Missouri. And so work brought me to Phoenix by way of Houston, Texas. And so 53 years young. Phoenix has been interesting. Lots changed since I've arrived in 2020. And so I recently got married to be a 1 year anniversary in August.
Awesome.
Congrats.
Thank you, thank you. Electrical engineer by trade, and I don't know if you want to kind of go into profession, but I'm executive director of distribution for Fox. So short is that I tell folks that if you see it on TV, you see it on your phone, that's my team. That's what I do. So everything on Fox actually comes out of Phoenix, and so it's been fun. It's been challenging. I got physical scars and mental scars, and so I jump at these opportunities to give back because my journey has been, I would say, alone, that being the only one at the table. And so I'm looking forward to this, to having a fun and organic and open conversation because I may have a little to say about it. Hey, just a little bit.
That's
Just a little bit.
That's shoes off talk.
Yeah.
We asked you to come in and take your shoes off and
Yeah.
get comfortable with having uncomfortable
Even size
conversations.
13s, we good?
Hey, you know what? We both size 13. So if you ever need to take your shoes off and put some new ones on, I got you. I got you. I got you. I got you.
Yeah.
How many minorities are in your position in other fields? Is this a field that is basically untapped by us? Are you one of one or
Very, very few. And when I say that, typically I'm the only one in the room, have been the only one in the room, is that's been the case. My career started again in Kansas City. I started with Sprint. I'm dating myself, Sprint PCS, right? So I did a lot of work with folks that have, PhDs, right, and etc. And so literally, I was the only one in the room. And so I transitioned from wireless to TV, that being with AT&T, and the same thing. I'm the only one in the room. And then right now from with Fox, and again, Fox is, what you know on TV and what's internal. I tell folks all the time, it's a little bit different internal in terms of the organization. I'm still one of the few in the room, and so, but it's a different level, right, in terms of, being folks from engineering, from management, and then there's another level, that being senior management, that does not look like you and I. And so I'm trying to break through that, so that I can give back and bring in folks that look like you and I, because that's never happened before, right? Other races, that's been true. But right now, it's just like, hey, I don't want anyone else from engineering or otherwise that look like you and I to be the only one in the room. So to short answer is that it's very few.
Yeah.
I'll say instead of one, the only one in the room is probably 2 or 3 right now.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And so it's definitely, it's always good to hear that there's that push to be in a room amongst the decision makers.
Mhm.
We definitely love the fact that we are in positions to where we have input about
Mhm.
what goes on,
Yeah.
but to actually be, part of that decision making,
Mhm.
is really what
Yeah.
affects change. And so
Yeah.
we pray that you succeed.
Mhm.
The Bible says claim it in advance, so we're gonna claim that thing
Mhm.
prior to it even happening.
Speak it into existence.
Exactly. And most people don't realize this, but that's what faith is. Faith is the hope, substance of things hoped for, and the evidence of things not seen. So we gonna pray that thing into existence,
right.
because we need um, people from the community, minorities from the community, that are actively in roles that really can affect and move
Mhm.
change.
Yeah. And I will say just a little bit more. I always say that, hey, it's just like I just need to be at the table. I want to be invited to the table, right? And I've said that to my leadership. It's just like, look, I just want to be at the table, but at the same time, being transparent if we can. Is just like I have a conversation with myself that is tough. Is that I want to be at the table in a position of senior leadership, not because of the color of my skin, but because of my performance. I work hard. I call it, I want to do above and beyond. I want to do Jesus class. And so I want to be above reproach.
Yeah.
And so that's difficult. And I go back and forth. This is like, hey, maybe I want to do this because of the color of my skin so I can be at the table.
Mm-hmm.
Or do I go the other route and say, hey, it's just like, hey, I want to be there because I deserve to be there.
Exactly.
And it's tough going back and forth.
Yeah.
It's scary. I'll say scary. How do you do that? How do you have that conversation with folks that don't look like you and I?
Yeah.
And it's been difficult. Yeah.
So when you think about the whole part of leadership, um, that entail when it comes to Black folks, period. Uh, why is it that we don't get to that point to want to strive for it? Why don't it's like you have these different programs, but where are the leaders? Where are they at?
Mm-hmm.
They say, "Oh, we have a program for to turn this one over here into a leader. We have this program over here that will mentor you. We have this, right?" And it's like, what's going on? We have different things that we can do for ourselves to build up, but we don't pursue it out there in the corporate world.
Yeah, why? And that's a great question. Is like, we have availability to get into these leadership roles, if for no other reason of quotas. They want to have it to where so many of us in the room or at the table, but a lot of us are shunning the opportunity to get through the door.
Mm-hmm.
And just to allude to what you said earlier, it's like we have that fine line. Do we accept the role because it is a quota, or do we say, hey, I want to get in on my merit,
Yeah.
this and that? My experience is just get in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Just get in the room. However that is, just get in the room, and then let your merit move you up while in the room.
Mm-hmm.
What say you?
It's as I talked about being the only one in the room, is that I'll again be transparent. When I was the only one in the room at that time, I was flexing my chest. I am the only one in the room, and that was a good thing because I made it. Right, I deserve to be here. Right, but I don't want anybody else in. Looking back now, it's just like it's good. That is a mantle that I will stand on. It's like, hey, but to answer your question, it's going to take time. In terms of this is where I was then, I'm okay being the only one in the room, to the point where that was not a good thing based upon my journey. And now I want to make certain that, hey, there's some folks that are going in that have the same mindset. It's just like, hey, as from a leadership standpoint, it's not really leadership, it's more self. It's more about I, and that's more cultural or generational right now, as opposed to it's just like, hey, it's like you're here, but are you reaching back?
Yeah.
Or are you reaching to the side to help your brother and sister that look like you and I advance? Right now, I will say the majority is this more of self-serving. This is what I'm doing, and not looking at holistically in terms of, hey, we need to do better, not as leaders, but as a race to pull back,
Yeah.
to give back, and it's just more of a mindset. And so we're not there yet until you get 50 plus years old, 40 plus years old, and look back on this and like, hey, I really failed.
Mm-hmm.
And have that self recognition. It's like, I did bad. So right now, my primary is I'll say 50-50 or 51-49 is that, hey, I want to be at the table, but at the same time, I want to mentor. I want to get back. I want to be at a position solely for the purpose of hiring people that look like you and I. That is my purpose right now. So from a leadership standpoint, it's not really a leadership discussion. It's more of, how do you see yourself and how do you see holistically as a race, and what are you doing about it? Right now, the younger generation that's coming in, it's about them. It's about how many comma or letters you can have after your name.
Yeah.
I'm an MBA. They'll
Yeah.
put it in LinkedIn all day. I'm this and that and that. It's just
Right,
like,
right.
what does that mean? That means absolutely nothing
Right.
to me. But what are you doing in addition to? So that's it. It's more self-serving right now. We got to get to a point where you bridge that between, okay, I'm starting off with my MBA, as opposed to, or in addition to, I'm 40-year-old, 50-year-old. I've been in the game for a while, and marrying that together.
Mm-hmm.
That's really important, and that's kind of what I'm doing right now.
I think that's something that that we're really lacking in the Black community is with the advent of social media. We are more about how I can spotlight what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
How can I get as many people as I can to like me and what I'm doing? And we are falling off in the community.
Yeah.
We are. I see it on social media all the time where we're praising specific Black people.
Mm-hmm.
But what they're not doing is they're not being subservient to the community, and the Bible speaks about that. The sign of the characteristics of a great leader is that leader that don't mind washing feet, and that in a lot of ways that's what that entails. Is like I got to step out of me, and I say this all the time. It's like how can I possibly enjoy what God has blessed me with when I know that there's people that don't have the bare minimum. And so we do live in that Me Too movement era to where it's about me. It's about me. And we as a community, we're praising that. We're glorifying that. Oh yeah, he did this and this and this and this. Okay, well, what doors did that open up for other people that looks like him though? Like did he really does he really deserve the praise that he's getting when it's all self-serving? Like,
it's I smile when you say that. So a couple of things regarding social media. Yeah, I won't say it's a slippery slope. It is a slope. When I have those conversations, I'm not on Instagram, right? Simply because of the fact is that you have to follow, as we talk about being a leader. And so folks all the time say it out loud. I'm a follower, and so how does that feel? I said, that doesn't sound very well. So that's what you're doing every day.
Yeah.
You're following somebody else. You don't have influencers out there unless you have some folks that can be influenced. So that's why you don't have those leaders out there. Folks want to be leaders because right now they don't understand that they're followers simply because of social media. And put my tech hat on, right? There's, it's social media. There's a great program out. I think it's on Netflix about, the social dilemma. In terms of how algorithms before, AI is out. It's like I knew AI before AI was AI, where there's algorithms in place based upon what you watch and based upon advertisers. Facebook, Instagram are advertising agencies. They're not a tech company, it's advertising. So if you go through your feed in Facebook, I'm on Facebook because that's where my family is to stay updated. But they feed you information based upon what you watch, based upon how long you have a particular picture, right? How you scroll through. So there's a lot of what we call metadata in the background that you are not exposed to that I'm grabbing all that information, right? I know from your phone, being in the wireless world, where I know where you are at all times. That's part of the terms and condition. right? Based upon where you are, I'm gonna serve that information to other advertisers based because I know Tim was here, and maybe he likes X, Y, and Z. So if you understand how technology works in the background, it's like I'm not going to do it, but I'm not on Instagram because I'm not a follower, and I have conversations. Say it out loud. I'm a follower, right? I use the term is like how many sheep that we have out here. It's like sheep are dumb, sheep are hard of sight, right? But they'll listen based upon what the shepherd is doing. And so that's difficult, and so it's a difficult conversation. But I always start with
really
like
is.
say it.
That's real.
And
That's
again,
real talk.
and
That's
again
real
from a
talk.
business standpoint, I
Yeah.
understand there's
Right.
a way to that, but from a social media influencers, they don't exist because you got folks that are easily influenced, right? And you're a follower. I refuse to do it, so I'm on Facebook and I'm on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And I tell folks it's like if you're not on LinkedIn, talk to me tomorrow when you have your profile set up. Period.
Yeah.
Period.
That's
That is a very tough conversation to have because people don't want to do those self-evaluations and say, hey, I need to change my mindset.
Mm.
And I tell people all the time, it's like, it's not hard to figure out.
Mm-hmm.
When you say something and it appears on your phone,
Mm-hmm. It's not by accident.
it's not by accident.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned a while ago that what we see on social media is not what China sees on TV,
Mm-hmm.
on social media.
Yeah.
They see more educational, more inspirational stuff. More, it's not so much about sex and violence.
Mm-hmm.
And they know that's the algorithm that we operate on. That's what gets our attention.
Yeah.
So those conversations are tough to have because people don't want to do those self-evaluations and say, I am a follower.
Yeah.
But I'm striving to be a leader,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm a follower.
Mm-hmm.
Say it out loud.
Yeah.
Say it
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
And it's uncomfortable for real leaders to even use the word follower.
Mm-hmm.
It's super uncomfortable. And that doesn't mean that you're above reproach. That just means that real leaders are wired differently.
Mm-hmm.
And everything that they do is leadership based, and it's not selfish. It's just that a lot of leaders understand what their purpose in life is.
Mm-hmm.
It's not two directional. It's one direction. And what happens is we get so sidetracked and caught up in social media that we start paying attention to things that don't serve us.
Yeah.
And social media knows that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if I can get your attention over here and backdoor you over here.
There's 3 movies that I always recommend when I, in these conversations about being a follower. One is The Matrix, right? Remember the red pill, blue pill, right? You got to unplug from, the Matrix / social media, right? And really open your eyes to figure out what's going on, right? And from a tech standpoint, I know how AI and algorithms work in the background, right? 2 is WALL-E. I don't know if you guys know the Disney. It's a Disney animation called WALL-E. It's about a little small white robot, right? And so go see WALL-E. And so specifically when he's on, I guess it's a spaceship / boat. And those folks that in a floating chair, right? But they're kind of comatose because they're at a TV and they're watching TV and they don't know what's going on around them. But the system or the matrix is kind of feeding information to them where they're just oblivious to what's going on outside, right? So he sees it, but everyone else is kind of marching to the same drum, right? I forgot what the third one was. So it was the WALL-E, the Matrix is another one that will come back to me.
Mm-hmm.
But in essence, is as we talk about being a follower, right, and understanding what's going on. Again, damn, there's more followers than leaders. And that's kind of answering your question is because, we're kind of plugged into this social media where in essence, that's what you are. You're just a follower. Right?
So when we're talking about followers, because for me, when it comes to following, that determines that the person don't really know what leadership means.
Mm-hmm.
In your words, what does leadership mean to you?
It's being a servant. For me, as I think you had mentioned, that's spot on, being a servant leader. When I go into my meetings with my staff, the first thing I ask is, how can I serve you? That's a leader, right? I don't lead with my title. I don't lead with my resume. I go in, it's just like, hey, X, how can I serve you? I'll go around the table. How can I serve you? And I do the same thing to my boss, right? So I go up and down in terms of, for my boss, how can I serve you? And the people that I'm over that report to me ask the same thing. So it's a mindset is that you serve the greater good, right? But the least of us is the greatest of us. And that's how I go in,
Mm-hmm.
right? I don't like to lead with, I say all the time, I'm embarrassed by my resume. There's a lot of stuff on there.
Mm.
You know, I got patents that we're using right now, right? If you use your phone, right, to get on the internet, that's my patent that I did in 2000, right? And so I don't lead with that, right? It's just like, hey, it's good to see that you can use from where we were to what we're doing right now, utilizing these small devices as opposed to having in the back of a truck riding in San Diego that took it back of a truck or van, right, to get internet on your phone,
Mm-hmm.
right, or mobile IP on your phone, that being going from one point to another point. I don't lead with that. I lead with, how can I serve you? And from that standpoint, that's how I can be a leader, right? Because I'm always listening, I'm always watching, but most importantly, I'm always serving. So as we talk about, you know, this generation being about I, it's not about me, right? How can I serve you, Tim? How can I serve you? That's a leader, because their leaders listen. Leaders listen, and that's a quote, and I say all the time: leaders listen, right? But you can't listen if you're just, you know, plugged into yourself.
Mm.
And we also have to understand that leaders and rulers are two different people. Leaders lead with nothing to gain, but the benefit of helping someone grow.
Mm.
Rulers lead with something to gain. There always has to be a benefit in them. And so when you're obtaining leadership roles, you have to understand that you don't want to cross that line into being a ruler. And I feel that's what society is becoming, is a generation of rulers.
Mm.
Like, there has to be something in it for me.
Yeah.
You know, you see it all the time in 9-to-5s.
Mm-hmm.
You know, hey, you've been working here 15 years. Why aren't you in management?
Yeah.
Because I don't want the responsibility. I make more money as being a regular employee.
Mm-hmm.
But do you have any complaints about your work conditions? Do you have any complaints? Do you hear complaints from your peers on the job about things that they dislike? All the time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're doing them a disservice, because you have the ability to be in a leadership role to change those things that you hear are issues. And 9 times out of 10, when you're a leader,
Mm.
that doesn't equate to the money that you make. It doesn't.
No.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
And we have to get out of that mindset thinking that, you know, if I'm going to be a leader, I need to get paid to be a leader. No, that's not what a true leader is.
Sadly, I know just recently, 2, maybe 3, they're, you know, young people. They turn down a promotion because they don't want the responsibility. So they'll turn down the little bit more money to turn down responsibility. I'm comfortable where I am.
Mm-hmm.
And it was not just 1, it was 2, it was 3, but it was the same thing. It's like, I'm good where I am. I don't need the additional responsibility and a little bit of change. I like to be exactly where I am. And that's, you know, so sadly enough, that's what's happening. And what's really upsetting me is that, that's learned behavior.
It is.
It's learned behavior, and that's where we failed as parents, because that's taught, right? Everyone gets that participation award, right? Everyone said everything's going to be okay. No one wants to be challenged, right? It was easy, and so you have that generation, and now these millennials right now that want something for, a lot of times, something for nothing, or they're happy where they are. And I always say, I don't never blame the kids, I blame the parents, because there's a correlation there between how did you parent, nurture nature, to what we have right now. I've seen it. So that's why I was really deliberate with my son, is that, you know, everything that I learned from my dad, I was intentional to make certain that he knew it as well, right? In terms of, servant leadership. Hey, there's a kid on the playground that's by themselves. You go to that person. You be a friend to that person, right?
Mm.
Character building, right? How to be a man, right? I told my son, starting at 14 years old, this is what it means to be a man, right? This is what I have. I have shoes, and one of my biggest regrets, I have some shoes that, before Uber and everything, I had to kind of walk to work when I worked in Atlanta, and I wore those shoes down where I actually had holes in them. And I used that to my son. This is like, hey, this is what I do for you. I will go without, so you and your mother could have, right? And so that was a mindset that I got from my dad, where I saw him coming home when he worked at Goodyear, falling asleep on the edge of the bed. His hands are swollen with grease on his hands. It's like, hey, he said the same thing. I'm doing this so you can have it better than I have. My role as a father was to make certain that my son had it better than I have. And I expect in terms of, when he has kids the same way, specifically a boy. So, but, I'm the anomaly. I'm the exception, right? You have more parents that either are lazy, and I'll say it, or, have that, you can have anything that you want with no revocations at all.
Yeah.
And so, don't blame the kids, I blame the parents.
Yep.
Okay.
We've had this conversation over the last couple of days,
Okay.
and it's crazy to me. We speak of a certain situation that's kind of known to everybody, and it's the LeBron James and Bronny situation, and I looked on social media and saw all of these people that look like me praising it, literally praising it, and I'm like, you do know everything that this kid has ever had has been given to him. I said, as a parent, step outside being a basketball fan, being a Laker fan, being a LeBron fan.
Yeah.
Think about it as a parent. What kind of message does that send to your child to say, all you have to do is the bare minimum, I got you on the rest of it?
Yeah.
One, it's you're shucking the responsibility of being a parent. Two, being a parent is sometimes uncomfortable, because the uncomfortable part of being a parent is to know that your child is going to have to go through some things to get to where they want. And that's going to be hours of tears, hours of pain. And we understand that as parents. And we want to limit that amount of pain that our kids go through. But at the same time, we understand what that did for us.
Sure.
And how that built us up. And we get caught up as parents, like you said. We are trying to be our kids' best friend. We're trying to give our kids everything we didn't have. And that is the worst thing that you can do for your parents. And I see other people praising that, like, yeah, about time we're able to put our kids in positions and this and that and this and that. I said, but you understand that there's a detriment that comes with that when you put your kid in a situation that, one, they're not ready for, two, they didn't really earn it. I said, what kind of message does that send to your child, and how long does that go generationally with him, with his kids?
Right. And is he having that conversation that I'm going to call him Bronny? Right? Is he having that conversation with himself? Is like, do I want this because of my dad, or do I want this based upon my ability? I won't speak for him, but I'll speak for him. Right? He's that generation, right? And that's just like, hey, I'll take it. Right?
Yeah.
I'll expect it. Yeah, my dad's that, and I want to take everything that comes along with it. Right? But he's not seeing it in terms of long term. Right?
Yeah.
It's like that. At the end of the day, you got to show and prove.
Yeah.
And as a dad, I would never do that to my son.
Oh my God.
To my son, it's like, this is my house. This is not your house, right? This is my car. I earned this. This is not yours, right? So everything, again, you can see how I did it, but I'm going to teach you how I did it, or I'm going to teach you how to fish, right? But I'm not going to give you anything, right? And again, go back to the hose and the shoes analogy. It's like, I'm doing this because of you. I expect you to do that, or you have the blueprint. You can pick and choose if you want to use it or not, but you have a blueprint from me and from your pawpaw. You need to do the same thing. So, again, social media, I unplug. So this is new information to me. It's like, hey, I can think for myself, so I don't need additional input for folks I don't know.
Well, I have multiple businesses. It's so funny you said it, because before I even ingratiated myself with social media, I've lived in 30 of the 50 states, including Puerto Rico. I went to 4 different high schools in 4 different states. So social media was the only way that I could keep in contact with family and friends that I met over the years. And then when I started business, I wasn't really familiar with how to use social media to benefit my business. And people were like, Tim, you got to be on social media. And it got to a point to where it's literally overwhelming. I don't understand how one person can do that by themselves and benefit their business. But for me, because I am a motivational speaker, I look at things on social media and it's like, okay, what can I do to help the mindset of the people in my community? And I look at the different things that we talk about. I look at the different things that are going on in society, and I try to give them a different perspective of how, because I'm not in the business of changing people's mind. That's not what I'm wanting to do. I just want to give you a different perspective on a thing, a different perspective of how to look at a certain thing. And so these people on my social media really think I hate LeBron, everything about him, man. And it's not. It's that subservient leadership, that selfishness, that it drives me, and I know what that does to the Black community. And if you came, I grew up on sugar sandwiches and mayonnaise sandwiches and sugar water and sardines.
Sugar bread,
church cheese, church cheese. So I grew up like that. I would never use as an excuse to stay in a rut, but I'd never forget where I came from. Do I ever want to go back there? No, but I would never compromise my integrity not to get back there. But when we do get to the point to where we have gotten things and we've achieved, I think a lot of times in the Black community, we're just glad to be there. And we get to a point to where we hit that plateau, and we have a tendency, what we really have a tendency to do is look at somebody that looks like us and say, I'm not as bad off as him, so I'm good. And we start comparing ourselves to other people that look like us. And that's where that mentality, I think a lot of that mentality comes in, is like, okay, of the people that I know, I'm good. And we got to get past that. We got to get past that, because we're not really doing the previous historical Black leaders their due, because it's comfortable for us nowadays. When we want to effectively bring about change, it's comfortable for us. We don't have, so to speak, we don't have the obstacles and the things that they had to go through back in the day, because they know if they wanted to affect change, there was going to be consequences that come with that, either dead or in jail. Not to mention, you're putting your whole family at risk speaking out against something in support of Black issues. And so I'm one of them type of leaders, is like, I understand, and I don't care what the repercussions are. When I'm gone, it's about me building and leaving a legacy. I'm more about legacies than I am anything that's material or financial or any of that. Is that I want, when people talk about me when I'm gone, I want it to be in a way that they use it as motivation to keep pushing. That's what it is for me. And I feel like we have to change that I'm good mindset in the Black community, because we just get to a level to where it's like, I'm okay with being okay. And we're not sending the right message to future generations.
Yeah, that's true. Hey, I agree with that. I mean,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
I mean, it for me, it goes down to having, like you said, having that mindset to want to, first of all, to want to make that change, make that change to that next level in life. I mean, because it's like we started off a certain way, and just that mediocre way, and then you see all these people around you, you just doing things like that. When I say all these people around you, I'm saying all these white folks around you elevating up not just like supervisor, manager, all that stuff. I'm talking about corporations owning them. CEOs, CFFOs, and all that. And we're just like on this mediocre stage. Because why? Of the mindset. Okay, if we don't change that game to want to step up to that role of wanting to play that game and that corporate America game, then we ain't gonna get nowhere.
It is a it's a game, but again, we have some catching up to do, right? The other demographic, they've been at this for a while, right? And so we're coming through, African American, you got Asians, you got Indians, so different demographics are coming through. As I talked about specifically at a previous company, I won't say, but um, I was told by a boss that he lived out of state, and of course I was in Kansas City at the time, but he told my peers that if he knew that Leo was black, he would never have hired me.
Mm.
Oh wow.
Oh,
So
oh
I'm,
man.
I have, I won't say difficulties, and again, that's what's important. That your performance speaks for yourself, right? But having those performance reviews were tough, right? And so this comment was done across, an external vendor and my peers, right? And I'm at the same table, but I didn't know until that was in August, and then fast forward into end of September, one of my peers was like, "Hey, I've been sitting on this for a while, and I can't take it anymore, and this is what happened." This particular boss said that if he knew I was black, that he would never have hired me. Right. And of course, with all the training that you do, you report it out to HR and nothing happened. To the point, I still had to report to the man for 2 years knowing all of this.
Ooh, how uncomfortable is that?
Right. And it was making sense because he was trying to give me low performance, but I have X files that I've learned. It's like keep track of everything that you do, keep track of every conversation. Right. And so where he had to change it, right, he had to backtrack. I said, okay, I'm going to give you this because of you. Absolutely. This is my performance. But at the same time, he viewed me as a black person. I won't even say a black man. Right. And so I was, from a leadership standpoint, I won't say common, but there's threads there. Right. And they talk amongst themselves as well. Right. And so you have to fight that. So again, I'm going in thinking that I'm the man. I'm doing all this and I have this, and it's like no, they still the story of OJ.
Mm-hmm.
You this and this and this, but they still look at you what.
Right.
When I heard that song, it's just like absolutely. So that's the difficulty that constantly things change, but I don't know. Right, and I know you want to kind of get into some politics as well, but from a leadership standpoint, it's like, look, I still need to fight because my skin still looks like this. Right, I still need to fight outside of my title. I still need to fight for folks that are coming through to educate them, right, in terms of, hey, it's above and it's more than you, right? You need to get to a position where you need to give back, right? And so unapologetically, I try to have, mentor people or, hire people that look like you and I. That's why LinkedIn's important, right? It's like, hey, I want to open my network, but what do you want, right? And so I make certain I connect those dots. That's really important. And so it's a fight, and it's different levels to entry level, different level, mid management, different problems, senior, different problems. My wife, I love her to death. She's a COO, and she deals with a lot of stuff as well, right? Being a black woman, so it doesn't stop. So your mindset needs to be set in terms of what you want to do, how do you want to do from a quote unquote leadership standpoint, from a position standpoint, and what you're going to do with it, right? So you still got to fight over here, but at the same time, you gotta bring those that look like you and I up, and that's tiring. I know when I come home, I need to. I say it all the time. I need to decompress because I'm dealing with so much. My wife has to do the same thing. That sometimes we're in tears. So it is tough, but I get up and do it again, right? Because I know what I had to go through, and I know what I need to do. As we talked about legacy, right? It's just like, hey, Leo's going to help. It's not about me. It's about being a servant, and how can I move the folks that look like you and I forward. It's my drive. I've worked here. My drive is here as well to do that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You spoke of coming home unplugging, and
Mm.
people don't understand how important it is to have that balance in your life.
Mm.
What are some of the things that you do to unplug? With somebody that has as much responsibility as you and your wife has, how do you unplug? What are some of the things that you implement?
You got to be intentional with self care. For me, is well, multiple things. Is that watching a little bit of TV. I don't look at a lot of sports because I look at sports every day. So you can look at something all day, but not want to do. I got All Star game tonight that I'm putting on, and so for me is being with family, right? Sitting down. I love to cook. So with all the stuff that's going on, working 10 to 12 hour days, I'll come home and cook. Right, that's my decompression. Right, I can burn. I don't cook. I mean, backtrack. I can burn.
Yeah,
There's
levels. There's levels to that.
I can
Burn is upper level.
Yeah.
Upper level.
And so that's one. And two is to talk about my day, to let it go,
Mm-hmm.
and that's important. I don't want to tomorrow's or today's problem going into tomorrow's problems. So having somebody that I can decompress and talk through, and she does the same thing. She feels that she's complaining because it's so much. It's like, no, I need to know as a husband,
Yeah.
so that way I'll know how to navigate of how you're doing, and I'm doing the same thing. Before, as we talk about those years being the only one at the table, being called black, etc., I had nobody to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
I had no release, what have you. So I kept that
Mhm.
till I got to Phoenix. So I'm talking about 30 plus year career where it's just me talking to myself and having no outlet at all, to a point where I'm here now that I can actually talk about it for the first time. And so that's key. For me, cooking is good. I'm running. Don't call me a runner. I run, right? But don't call me a runner. But the big thing and the crucial thing is having somebody that you can talk to, that you can let it out,
Mhm.
and having those conversations. That's critical. That is critical.
As you speak about running,
Mm.
Leo,
Mm.
how much weight did you lose?
I don't know. I know at least 50.
Ooh.
Yeah, at least 50.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I joke around when I say that I'm not a runner. It's my morning routine.
Uh-huh.
I have a morning routine. I get up, I make the bed, usually around 5:30, and I do 2 to 3 miles a day. And I'm not a runner. That's just my morning routine.
Mhm.
I get up and use the bathroom, then I put my stuff on and go. And I call it chopping wood. I'm not the best looking runner, but I'm chopping wood.
Right.
And so if I don't do it, something's missing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know it's difficult even in this heat, but that's the morning routine. And so I'm not changing anything that I'm eating. Don't get me wrong now.
It's got to be a balance.
It's a balance.
It's got to be a healthy balance.
Yeah.
And as a trainer, that's what I tell my clients is like, look, you're not getting on anybody's stage. You're not competing against nobody and how they look. This is that self-care,
Yeah.
and it's more about how you feel
Mhm.
than a number and what's on the scale.
Yeah.
And you definitely we put so many things in front of us as priorities, and a lot of times we forget about us,
Mhm.
as being a priority, because the thing about it is you can make everything in your life work like a well-oiled machine.
Mhm.
But if your body doesn't work like a well-oiled machine, that other stuff means nothing, because
Yeah.
if that quits on you, if your body quits on you, all of that other stuff means nothing.
Yeah.
And so we definitely have to get to a point in our lives, if it wasn't something, a lot of us, like myself, grew up athletes. And so being an athlete, being in a gym, that's all I know. I don't know anything else.
Mhm.
But not everybody is like that. And so a lot of people that even were athletes did it because they were just good at it. And then when they stopped being an athlete, they put their health to the side. So it's important when we talk about that decompressing and outlets. That is the best outlet you can have is to take care of yourself. And I think alluding to what you talked about is having somebody to talk to. I've just experienced a lot in my life, and people don't know how important that is. And I even found at some points in my life where I was reaching out to talk to people that didn't care about what I had going on, but I just needed that.
Mm-hmm.
I just needed to talk to someone.
Yeah.
And I would look back on it and be like, probably getting on their nerves, but it's so important, because I don't care how strong of a person you are, you have to have a release valve. If you don't have a release valve, that pressure builds up. And we already, as Black men, we have so much pressure on us from the time we open our eyes and walk out that door. That is a 9 to 5 that is really a 24-hour job.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not even talking about going to your job,
Yeah.
just being Black.
Mm-hmm.
And so many other nationalities don't understand that kind of pressure. Being Black is hard.
Mm-hmm.
It is hard,
Yeah.
because it's not something that you clock in and clock out on.
Yeah.
It's a constant.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's important in the community, is that we give ourselves that grace, and to understand that find things that you enjoy doing.
Mm-hmm.
That's so
That's
important.
most important.
It is to submerge yourself in hobbies and find things that you love to do. I even said this when I was in a relationship. It's like, it's okay to have those things that's separate of your mate that you love to do.
Right.
Because, at some point, you need to do the things that make you happy, that bring you joy, even if it's just an hour a day.
Yeah.
And it is, and that, I think that's the reason why we suffer from so much depression and mental illnesses and different things, is that we don't have enough outlets. So, my message to everybody that's listening is find some things you enjoy doing, and let that be your outlet. Let that be your outlet. We alluded earlier, you kind of segued into this politics.
Okay.
Politics. But we're going to keep it in the Black community. But one of the questions that I would ask you is, why do we have so many people in the Black community, or people that look like us, that love to support Trump, when he's let it be known that he wouldn't care if we fell off the face of the earth?
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? What does that, I have an idea, but what does that mentality look like? Because I had somebody that really wanted to come on the show. I mean, when I tell you they were Trump through and through, and mind you, let me preface this by saying this: whoever you choose to support is your business.
Absolutely.
It's strictly your business. I don't have a problem with you. It's when you push a narrative that makes it unsafe for people like me and other people in the community. And the narrative, like, if you can't tell me something other than the economy, and you're pushing, basically violence, to push your narrative. If it's really about the economy, then I can't ride with that, because I understand in his first years, well, when he was previously president, it was the unsafest I've ever felt in my life as a Black man in the community. And so to hear somebody talk about the economy, I could care less about the economy, because I know I have kids that look like me.
Yeah.
So what is our obsession as Black people with someone that our agendas don't even align? Like, our agendas don't even align. We talked earlier about the difference between being a leader and a ruler. Yeah. He's obviously a ruler. So what is it about that?
I can't answer that. I mean, that's a fantastic question. Maybe a theory is that, I think there's I guess, a leading question in terms of, I always, what did you think about, Barack Obama? Right. And a lot of times that would get your answer. right? Because it's like, okay, he didn't do enough for this community here, so they're going to rubber band to go over here. So, hey, I'm going to go this because, he's going to do this. He says what he says, right? As a result of not liking a person and their policies or skin color, right? So maybe not an answer for that, but I don't have an answer for that. I have a hypothesis for that,
Mhm.
basically for folks that look like you and I. But overall, from a Trump supporter, and again, I'm not a Democrat or a Republican.
Me either.
I vote the issues. I'm not a lazy voter.
Mhm.
We have a lot of lazy voters out there, right?
Mhm.
So I'll vote them based upon what's really important to me and my family. Um, I understand that folks that don't look like you and I supporting said man, right? Because I get it. If I look like them, I would do the exact same thing.
Mhm.
It's a fear, right? It's not about politics. It's about fear. It's the fear of losing generational privilege, right? That they've been afforded to for, again, generations, right? And what they see making America great again is based upon, hey, we've had all of these privileges, right? Inside of the workplace, outside of the workplace, right? And fear of losing and becoming a minority. And so you have somebody, even the church, and I'm going to get into that as well, even the
Mhm.
church that's just like, hey, we're putting this man on the mantle because they want to keep quote unquote family values. They want to keep the way it's always been, that being having privilege over here. So the conversation is always, when I get to those conversations, it's like, hey, do you agree that your America does not look like my America?
Mhm.
Right? If we can agree on that, that's when we start that conversation, right? And a lot of times we'll come to an agreement. It's like, hey, I can't support this person because he doesn't support my history, or nor does he support, my future, that being my son, right? And so, are you willing to come to the middle in terms of giving up some of your privilege, or even recognize that you've had privilege, white privilege, right? And so, it's a fear of letting go of what they have been afforded for generations, and that's what it is. And that's it, the dog whistle in terms of making America great again. For us, it's like, when was America great?
Yeah.
Hey,
Right?
hey, just that simple question, right? And 8 times out of 10, they can't answer that question. Or if they answer that question, it's like, whoa, I need to step back because I know exactly what that means.
Yeah.
Right? I want to maintain my privilege, and you can continue to be lesser than, right? I want to make certain that I can have things that we cannot, right? That was been intentional, right? Policies that have been in place that have affected our community, right? And so I understand. If I was there, it's like, hey, I would do the exact same thing. Let's start there as a conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in terms of black people, I don't understand it. I don't understand it. But again, I go back to, we have a lot of sheep. So you can have a lot of men or women who support it. So like, I see a lot of sheep out there, right? You're following along, but a lot of times if you press them on the issues, right, have an honest conversation. I always say, get past the sting, right? I mean, that first hit, right? In the boxing analogy, right? And then let's have the conversation and let's figure out. You may not agree, don't expect to agree, but let's have that conversation. That's all I want to do.
And honestly, I could say for me, when he was first running, I was really in support of him, running, because I felt like, even though I knew his past, being, a slum lord and the things that he had done in his past, like, this isn't, for people that have known him, this isn't, this isn't just something that just started 4 or 5 years ago or 8 years ago.
Yeah.
This has been who Trump has been his whole career. And when he first ran, I was like, okay, a different look. He's not a politician. He's a businessman, not a successful one, but he's a businessman, because you can't really call yourself a successful businessman when you inherited $400 million, from your family. That wasn't naturally gotten by having good business.
Sure.
But I felt like, okay, it's a different look. But as as he gets in office and I start seeing the country divide more and more and more, and then I started seeing it in the community. I don't like all of what Black Lives Matter stood for at all. I like the preface of it, but I don't like a lot of what they stood for. But even in our community here in Gilbert, like you would go up to Warner and Gilbert Road and it'd be on one side of the street Trump supporters and on the other side of the street Black Lives Matter. And it got violent to the point to where they had to bring cops out and divide the street. And I would ride that way and have my windows down just to kind of, the derogatory comments toward me and the things and the names that I was called, like, I'm just like, at what point during the Obama administration, did we act like that? Right. You know, and I know in the Black community, we say, you know, Obama didn't, you know, do everything that I think the biggest thing is to understand politics and the map of the hierarchy and what powers the president actually has. And once you understand that, you understand that president's powers are limited, like super limited. He may have all the plans in the world to do specific things, but if them other people decide that that doesn't work for them, then it's null and void. And I think that's the reason why Trump is pushing for all in, to where he actually has policies in place that would give him ultimate power. He's trying to move out the people that he basically would have to report to whenever he would make a decision, and he wants ultimate power. And that 2025, like, it's scary when you really look at it, because he's planning to give the police department total anonymity, to where they don't have repercussions for anything that happens.
Is that something? Have you seen that before? Have you heard that story before?
Yeah.
History.
Yeah.
If you understand,
it's repeating itself.
2025 is Mein Kampf all over again. So if you look at it, it's like exact same thing. He wants to have authority, power, right? And you have folks that look like that want to keep that power, right? And they want to, you know, have others get to that point, knock on wood, but, you know, you want to separate, right? As you said, you want to separate, you know, the have and have-nots. You want to separate the class to the classless. History is repeating itself all over again. I say all the time, and my mom, you know, rest her soul, is just like, Trump was a great thing, right? Because it brought those that, you know, those conversations or those thoughts that were in living rooms out to Warner and Gilbert.
Yeah.
I
definitely said that.
I said that. It's just like, I love it because, you know, they're emboldened. I say they, I won't say they, but I will. Emboldened that, you know, I know who you are now. You know, I don't have to think about, you know, having a boss that, you know, say, you know, calling me a black person, but, you know, hey, I know who you are. I know how you think, right? And so I think it's a great thing, right? And so the next step is, you know, having those conversations. A lot of times you don't want to have the conversation because you know where it leads. Yeah. You know what you're thinking about. You either stand on it or you don't.
And that's all that's all I've ever asked was like, just don't use the economy as a scapegoat. Say what it really is.
Sure.
It's not MAGA, Make America Great Again. It's Make America White Again. That's really what it is.
Right.
Because when you use these nonsense excuses, well, the economy wasn't good. Well, the black community had the highest unemployment rate during his term. 16%. 16%. The only people that really got wealthy during his reign was the ones that were already wealthy. And the message that I try to get across to people is that you understand that in a 4-year term, the effects from a president does not really go in effect until the next president comes in. So you're literally cleaning up, and you're having your first 2 to 3 years in office. You are either reaping the benefits of the president before you, or you're suffering from the decisions that the president before you made. And so that's why I say when people want to give him credit for everything that was done during his terms, like probably 2 or 3 years of that was Obama.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And then going into Biden's administration, his first year or two was having to fix decisions that Trump had put in place.
Yeah.
And so people don't understand that. And so that's why when we have these conversations, just keep it a buck.
Mm-hmm.
Just keep it a buck. You have a leader in place that have given you the green light to be 100% transparent.
Yeah.
Just own it. And it's just like the incident that what happened on the Capitol.
Mm-hmm.
I saw. Did you see the it was a segment. There was a black guy that actually documented that he was there that day, and it came out on Netflix, and he basically gave you the inside, like he was in the crowd, saw everything that happened, and like the hate that was spewed in the conversations, and the minute that Trump said stand up and stand by is when everything went to hell. And if I'm correct, he just said that again.
It's politics is the engine, but it's not about politics.
Yeah.
Right. So when did John McCain, right, through and through Republican, right, 2 speakers of the houses, Mitt Romney, right, these staunch Republicans, and they don't like them either. It's not about politics.
Yeah.
It's about class, it's about power, and it's about fear, right? And so by any means, and again, politics is the engine, but it's just like, hey, this guy is going to maintain what we've had for generations. And again, I will say this again, I get it, right? But it's not about politics. It's about class.
I said that
it's
very
about
thing.
power, and it's about fear. I will say I have a concern. That's what's going to come up in November, right? As we talk about, Biden, right? I think us as a people, or whatever, from politics, from side to side, from a Democratic standpoint, right? We're going to be apathetic. We know from a Republican side is that they're going to come out and vote, all right? From a Democratic side, it's like I think it's really apathetic, and so we're not going to vote. And my concern is that, hey, this is what's going to happen. And so, all that being said, is like I won't be surprised. I wasn't surprised when he first got in.
No, I was not either.
Thing. And again, I'm not a Democrat or Republican. I vote issues. I vote the of the person. But I will say that from a leader standpoint, circling back, from a man standpoint, from a presidential standpoint, from a person, there's no way. There's no way I would vote in good conscience as a man of God in good conscience to know, right, to vote for said person. And again, on record, from a church standpoint, right, I love it because it's showing you the true colors. That being folks in the pulpit, right, being behind this person, good and well. This person's not a man of God. This person does not live by the tenets of the Bible. Does not. And so, but you say this man is okay. I get it. And so I smile and says, okay, I know where you stand, right? And they are shepherds that's leading sheep, but I won't be surprised what happens. And I'll be surprised if said party gets in, right? So I'll stand on that.
Yeah, it's. I don't think we've ever had a time in history where so many people in their own political category have dealt with so many of their own people going against them.
Yeah.
And that's eye opening. Like, it's like you said, this is not about politics. It's not. When I see people, when they posting things and this and that and this and that, I'm looking. I'm like, this is not politics. It's not politics at all. And they were like, well, who do you support? I support. It's right and wrong for me. It's right and wrong for me. And I'm not just looking at the black community. I'm looking at the community as a whole, what this is going to do. And soon as he got shot or whatever the other day, you had Trump supporters taking to social media talking about, well, that just started a civil war.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, why would you even say that?
Fear.
Like, and it was his supporters that was saying that, and I'm like, you just, if you had a mask on, you just pulled it off.
Mm-hmm.
And let us know what you're wishing for. And for me, being a 2-tour combat veteran, I had to tell him, it's like, look, when it comes to any kind of war, there is no winners, only losers. And so you have to understand the fallout of this is not going to just affect the Black community.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I just wanted to be transparent in saying that is because we have to understand with a leader like this,
Quote, unquote.
it's by any means necessary.
Mm-hmm.
And that means that even if he had to sacrifice a few of his own to get where he wants his agenda to be, he'll do that.
Mm-hmm.
He has no problem doing that. So imagine if his people that look like him, he's willing to do that to. Imagine the people that look like me that are supporting him.
Mm-hmm.
We so bad want to be accepted by the populace and people that don't look like us, and that just, it hurts me from the inside out. Is because we are so worried about other people and accepting us and don't care what the Black community thinks about us. And it's one of the biggest problems that I see in the Black community. We can even go down the line of spending. Only less than 10% of the Black community's money goes back in the Black community.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much of a disparity when it comes to other nationalities and other ethnicities, and how much of their money that goes back into their communities.
Mm-hmm.
I own a business,
Yeah.
and I can honestly tell you, I have 4,800 phone numbers in my phone,
Mm-hmm.
and probably 15 of those people have supported my business.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not like, that bugs me from a standpoint to where it's not just an isolated situation. It's not just me. We look at statistics, and that's the community as a whole. We have got to do better, and we own the majority of the money.
Mm-hmm.
We own, the Black community is richer than 5 countries put together. 5 countries, and the U.S. being one of the smallest ones. So you mean to tell me we can't have our own resources and our own things in the U.S.? Like that's disturbing to me when I heard and saw those statistics. Is that if we just put a third of our own money back into our community,
Mm-hmm.
we wouldn't have these conversations that we're having.
Something that I saw, it was so true, but it stung. Right. So as we talk about community, I was going to ask you, how broad is the community? I go more from a race standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
and this was Vladimir Putin said about Blacks in Africa. He said Africa is a graveyard for the Black people.
Mm.
From education, right? They go to Europe to get their education. They travel to Canada and U.S. and Dubai for their vacation. Right, they spend their money in different banks, that being in China or in Canada or the U.S. Right, they don't put what they earned as a community back into the country or the community that they live in. It's only used as a place to die. So as you talk about as a community, right, it's the same thing in America, right? With some nuances, but from a race, right, we don't put it back into our community like other communities do. The blueprints are there. And so, again, foundationally, why? Right, getting back to that, executive leadership and from, the Toyotas, that 5 whys. Why? Why don't we do that? Answer, why? Okay, we have maybe an answer, a hypothesis. Why? When you get to that 5th why, you'll get to that answer. And so, as you said, that has triggered something I literally saw yesterday that was stung, but is absolutely true.
Yeah.
We're not putting our money into the community, whatever our definition of the community, from resources, from time, from talents, we don't put it back into our community. Right? We spend outside of the community. And as a result, right, we're seeing the same story that we said a decade ago,
Mm-hmm.
2 decades ago, 3 decades ago, 4 decades ago, right? And so, we have to look internal. So, what are we doing?
Yeah.
What are we not doing?
We can't blame nobody but us.
Right. And again, for me, I'm looking at broader. So, if we're doing the exact same thing as a race here in America, and we're doing the exact same thing as a race from the motherland, okay, there's something there.
Mm-hmm.
How do we get there?
Yeah. As we close, we get to the end of this. We have a lot of viewers that joined us late, and I actually want you to reintroduce yourself, and I want you to tell us, some of your accomplishments and things. Like I want to know. Like, I believe in giving people their flowers, even when they don't need them.
Okay.
And that's like being the strong one.
Mm-hmm.
We always the strong people in your lives are the ones that you depend on daily.
Sure.
But typically those strong people are the people that don't have people that they can depend on.
Mm-hmm.
And so we want to be that for you, and we want to give you your flowers while you have this platform. And to know anytime you want to use this platform for anything that you wish to use it for, our doors are open for you. So for the people that joined us late, tell us again who you are and what you do.
Yeah. Well, family, Leo Anderson. I've been in the Phoenix area for 4 years. Born and raised in Kansas City. I love my barbecue. Went to the University of Missouri, electrical engineering. Started off with Sprint PCS. If you guys, started off mobile, all right? So Sprint PCS helped develop. And again, I said earlier, if you're not joined, is that you guys use my patents every single day, right? If you get on the phone, right, to get on Instagram or Facebook or whatever it is, via the internet, that's a Leo Anderson patent, right? So I did that. Left Sprint to go to AT&T, and some folks, I don't know if we had it in Phoenix here, but AT&T Uverse, which was across the country. So that's one of my designs and one of my things that I accomplished. And then folks with DirecTV, I led a team to bring on DirecTV Stream, if you guys are using that. And so now here I'm in Phoenix. And so short story, my job is to make certain that I get it from the arenas, I get it from the football stadiums, what have you, to your TV. So any and all Fox content, LA, New York, or arenas or stadiums, I make sure I get it from a distribution to the masses. And so, as I said before, I'm embarrassed by my resume, but I do appreciate, that being getting my flowers. It is uncomfortable because that's who I'm made. It's something that I've done.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I know what my charge is now is to not only expand that resume, but make certain that I grow other resumes. Mm-hmm. My charge is to make certain that I'm at the table, so unapologetically I can extend that to folks that look like you and I, because generations have done that as well.
What's your official title?
My official title is Executive Director of Affiliate Operations
for
Fox Corporation. Right. Not the local Fox, right? This is the Fox. So Fox News.
That's why I wanted you to be specific in that.
So yeah.
And the other reason why I did that too is that our history has been so tailor-made for Western civilization that we have been left out of a lot of the nuances of the things that people enjoy. Mm-hmm. And it's coming out recently who are actually the inventors of specific things and who the pioneers are of specific things. And so it was very educational and eye-opening for me to learn these things, and it made me poke out my chest even more. And just hearing you and the things that you've done,
we did it.
It made me poke my chest out even more, is because the education that we were given is not our education. It's not our history. And so that's another policy that's coming in place. If said person is elected, he's doing away with, learning of our ethnic history. That's a policy that he is putting in place as soon as he's elected. So I think it's important that we do our own due diligence and we put out a platform to recognize people in the Black community that have been pioneers of things that we take for granted every day. I did not know that about your patent. And it makes me want to use my phone even more. So we thank you and we appreciate the things that you have done, not just in the Black community but in the world. And we are really pushing for people that look like us to have that same seat at the table. And we want to get to the point where we're not asking for a seat at the table, we're creating our own table. And we know that's a process. It's going to take time. But we have to have people that are willing to step up to that challenge. And so we appreciate you being a pioneer in the areas that you are. And once again, we have, that is the direction of Shoes Off Talk, is we want to have those unapologetically uncomfortable conversations, but we also want to educate, inform, and motivate and inspire. And so you have definitely been an inspiration to myself, to the viewers, I'm sure to Floyd as well.
Sir. Yes, sir.
And we cannot thank you enough for the things that you have done and what you're continuing to do. And so, like I said, if you ever need us for anything at all, just know you have an extended family with us, and we celebrate you.
Yeah,
we celebrate you.
Thank you so much.
And so I'm going to let Floyd end the show if he has anything else.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Gotcha.
No, but yes, I really enjoyed it. Enjoyed what you had to say. Very inspirational. Man, acknowledging that's anything dealing with leadership. I'm like, man, I'm on board with it. That's the way to go. But was there anything else you have to say? You wanted to say anything?
No,
the floor is over to you.
I'm good. It's just like work, life be lifing, as I jokingly say. But I appreciate the platform. I don't take it lightly. I celebrate you guys as well for what you do. I drove up and it's just like, wow, what is this? What is this? What did I miss? And so I'll definitely take you up on an offer. And the same thing to you guys. If you guys need help within my ability, within my network, I will extend that to you and put me to work. Yeah. So I appreciate you. I celebrate you. And humbly speaking, thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, I already, throughout this conversation, I was thinking about a bunch of different things that we can do and put our heads together in the community and do. And so I will be in touch with you on that. And when you have those conversations about people and platforms and say, hey, I have a home platform. Shoes Off Talk is definitely a platform that is open and available to you for whatever you need it for. And so you're always welcome to come back. And so how we end all shows, just to let you know, it's a thing. We end the show by saying love, peace, and soul. And if that sounds familiar, I am Cornelius from Soul Train. So how we end all shows, love, peace, and soul.